to start?
So it's a good question. I think, if I may, I mean, my initial reaction to that, and you're absolutely right in the areas you've covered, is that I think Rishi has effectively seen this sort of like fast train that's coming his way, you know, around targets. I speak about the obsession of targets and, you know, some of the ideological things that have gone on around targets and the practical implications of that for the public. I think he's actually realised how fast that train is coming at everyone, the government in particular, what that actually means for, you know, the public. And he's had to intervene right now, hence the reason why he's spoken as he has today. I think there is a lot there. From a government perspective, he's also effectively said today, when he was Chancellor, these decisions are being made. They're all fiscal as well, so it would have gone through him. He's now recognised that actually maybe we shouldn't have done it that way, and now there's a different way of doing it. Yeah. You can read into that what you wish around context. But I think there are some other things here as well. Fundamentally, this is about how decisions are made in government. He's touched on that. He spoke about lobbying. Those with the loudest voices often get their say. That speaks to the ideological nature of this debate, I think, around net zero. But if I may say so, I think it also speaks around how perhaps some decisions are made in government. On the upside of this, I think there's a lot of good content there as well, which, you know, I think might alarm your viewers. Yeah. You know, we've heard a litany today of the type of areas where in a few years' time, boiler upgrades, heat pumps, the type of costs that would be involved, car sharing, 7 bins. I don't know about you, I have a few bins. I think, you know, this has been on the cards for a long time. This also speaks about how local government conducts itself. So is there going to be wider reform there? But I think today the public has learnt something here about the real impact of what net zero policies in government would mean for them. Quite frankly, I think it would terrify a lot of people that did not know about this. Yeah. But secondly now, you know, you put in the mirror up to government and what it means for the public and saying, we need to do things differently, and that's a good thing. That is a good thing. My views are known on, you know, cars, around the impact, around taxes, the burdens.
Well, let's just start on that then. So let's start with the electric vehicles. So as it currently stood, there was going to be a ban on new petrol and diesel vehicles by 2030. That's been rolled back to 2035, and you will still be able to buy and sell second-hand after that. He's made the point that that will be actually aligning us with a whole host of other countries and indeed some US states. So that, I think, is a good thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely, it is, completely. I would also go as far as to say that if we can do this and align ourselves with countries, other countries, why can't we do that on things such as another area that I'm concerned about, which is global rates of corporation tax, for example? Absolutely. Why are we constantly trying to be out there before other countries and putting that detrimental harm on us, our businesses, on taxpayers, etc. But on EVs, that's absolutely right. I mean, they're pricey vehicles. Yeah. At the same time, of course, he's spoken about, and I do think this is right, about greater innovation, investment. I do also think, though, he's spoken about transparency and accountability here. I think the public need to know who are these companies that are investing, what are the deals that are done with our government, what kind of subsidies are being given to them as well. Yeah. I think we all need to see greater transparency around that. He mentioned Tata. Well, Tata have just also received a lot of state help around Port Talbot. You know, so how does all this interplay? We do need to unpack a lot more of this.
Yeah, indeed. One of the things that you mentioned that really kind of piqued my attention as well was he's going to give people more time to transition to heat pumps, and he says he will never force you to rip out your boiler. You'll only ever have to make the switch when replacing your existing boiler. There will be a boiler upgrade scheme, which, as far as I heard anyway, was £7,500. No need for that to ever be repaid.
That's exactly right. I noted that as well. That's extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, look, he's just announced this. I think we should give him the benefit of the doubt and let's see how these schemes come together. It always takes time in government for these schemes to come together. I think this whole obsession towards heat pumps is dangerous. I really do. I have said, and I've shared this with many colleagues, I think heat pumps could actually be almost like a mis-selling scandal as well. Yeah. How all these homes, you know, new homes that people are buying, they come with heat pumps but without the real know-how, the security of heat supply and all sorts of things. And we have heard some problems with certain local authorities and properties as well, and developers bringing in heat pumps. So I think this is right to actually pause this Again, with investment in technology, this can only improve. So it's right that, we should give this time. And it's mad, it's absolutely crazy to say to people, if you've got a boiler, you have to rip out your boiler by X date and put in a heat pump. That's wrong. And fundamentally, you'd expect me to say this anyway, because I believe it. It's not for central government to determine and dictate what type of heating you have in your house, and also the choices that you make around how your home is heated, and indeed the type of car you drive.
Yeah, exactly, let alone how many people you can put in that car.
Right.
One of the other things as well that I know that you were particularly interested in was about grid infrastructure.
That's right. So it's quite controversial. I'm an Essex MP where I am, hugely controversial, and I've spent quite a bit of time raising this in Parliament. So we're proud the east of England has a brilliant amount of investment and technology in offshore wind. That's developed over the last 10 years, and actually that's thanks to successive governments. Offshore needs to be connected to the grid in some way. However, National Grid, and I think, this is again, putting the flags up. They've got proposals to put 100 miles of pylons across the east of England to get that connectivity to the grid. I and my colleagues are saying no. We want that to go offshore because the technology is there, and we should be using new technology and new investment rather than just putting pylons across our beautiful countryside, by the way, across farmland, by the way, across people's gardens. And this is effectively where the government should be doing much more to invest in offshore, green tech, new technology, creating more skills and more jobs. But there is another fly in the ointment here, which I think is very concerning. Prime Minister has touched on this. Planning consent. Too much of this planning consent takes place in a very untransparent and undemocratic way. The public should be consulted. And I fear that, quite frankly, my community, and I'm seeing this in communities around my constituency, we're being ridden roughshod over. No accountability, no transparency around development consent orders through the planning process. That's wrong, and that has to change. And that is why there's so much noise around net zero, and why people feel that there is something going on that's not transparent, because it's just too opaque. And the public should have more information. And I would actually say back to the government today, if these are the areas where the Prime Minister has spoken about greater transparency today, I'm all for that. But bring it right down to local communities and let the public have their say on these programmes.
So there has been, as he alluded to there numerous times, a bit of pushback from other elements of the Conservative Party. Labour are going to get stuck into this in a few minutes' time, I would imagine, if they haven't already. So will everybody else. What would you say to Conservative MPs, potentially even members of his cabinet, who are saying, this isn't the right thing to do?
So, look, I think first and foremost, I'm a great believer in, global Britain post-Brexit, innovation, technology and investment. We're there. We are there. We're one of the fastest countries in the world when it comes to decarbonising, and that's a good thing. But the big message is, don't hurt the British public through punitive measures. And actually, the state needs to back out of their lives. It really does. So we've heard encouraging things today. And, when it comes to electric vehicles, when it comes to petrol and diesel cars, when it comes to boilers, these measures, we have to now wait and see what it means in practical terms around the changes that he's announced today. But alongside that, there's a very, very big message here. It's not for government to just squirrel away and make these decisions. There's a big thing here about carrying the British public with you. And I think, quite frankly, to critics today, my friends and colleagues, basically, and others, we do need to stop and pause here. Quite frankly, coming back to that analogy of that fast train coming, that train is coming very fast and the British public are not ready for it. And it's right that we have this moment to actually bring in practical measures, practical support measures for the public. I think there's a lot more here yet. We've still got ULEZ.
Well, I was exactly going to ask you about that.
Parts of the country.
Should he have said something about ULEZ?
Yes, of course.
So you think that's an area you should have gone further? Go on.
So, look, I do speak about, the Prime Minister has said this as well, it's an emotive area. The whole issue about net zero and climate change, yes, it's dominated by ideology, yes, it's dominated by emotion, but we have to think about the public at the end of the day. ULEZ is a classic example, along with 20-mile speed restriction zones. And it's not just in London. You think about places such as Wales, for example, it's still the United Kingdom. Other cities, I'd say Labour-run cities, if I may, as well, just to be party political about this, you know, there's ideology there. And again, there is a moment now where I think everyone has to think pragmatically and practically. You know, bring those two P's together, and then we've got, you know, practical solutions, common sense solutions to how people can go about their business and lead their lives. And I think that's really important.
Bit of clear water now between the Conservative Party and Labour and the Lib Dems and the Greens, obviously, and the SNP, etc. Crucially, from what you've heard there, has he now got more votes, do you think?
Well, look, the proof of the pudding is always in the eating, OK? So that's for the public to decide and determine. I think the crucial thing here as well, it's about delivery. How will this be delivered? Operational delivery is one of the hardest things in government, but, you know, it's how you do that. I don't think as well, because the public will listen to this and they'll think, you know, how authentic is that? How sincere is that? How practical is all of this? That's fine. It's what it actually means for them. It's about the pound in their pocket at the end of the day. Are they going to be better or worse off? And, you know, we don't know yet. We simply don't know. We've just had a very big announcement, actually, by the Prime Minister. This will be about the delivery, how this will be operationalised. There are some good people in government. It'll be down to them to do this. And the public then need to feel the net benefit of that. And they've got to have confidence that the government isn't going to go hounding after them with more taxes, you know, with more punitive taxes for the motorists or decisions that are going to harm them, their families or their businesses.
Look, Priti, thank you.